DreAllDay.com.
Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. You know, I read a lot. You know, some of my favorite books I've done on my podcast, 6 different episodes talking about my favorite books and why I like those books, and 3 books that I've mentioned in those favorite books episodes. One is Brene Brown's, I forgot the name of it, but it's Brene Brown's, one of her early books, like her first major traditional publisher book. Then it was Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, and then Tim Grover's Relentless. I mentioned all 3 of them together in my last favorite books episode simply because all 3 of them, even though they're coming from completely different angles, like you got Tim Grover's book is really about athletes, like the mindset of an athlete, if you want to be that like alpha dog type dude. Then Robert Greene's book is The Laws of Human Nature, so it's just about how people are and why they're a certain way and how we can examine ourselves and better deal with other people and know the way that they conduct themselves, the things that people do that may not make sense to us. And then Brene Brown's book is about taking those same emotions that the other books kind of tell you to put in check. And she says, you know, you need to actually soak in those emotions and get in touch with those emotions, and it's okay to feel emotional. You don't need to bottle them up or, you know, mask your emotions or suppress your emotions, such as maybe something like Tim Grover would say. If you're playing a sport, you probably want to suppress your emotions so you can channel it into focus. But Brene, she's not an athlete. She's not talking to athletes. Hers is more feminine. She's a female. And she's saying soaking those emotions. So they're all coming from very different angles. But it's one thing that they all talk about that they all have in common. One of them, and it is getting in touch with your dark side, like the dark side of your personality, because everybody has it. Whereas a woman's dark side might be, like Brene used the example, someone left a nasty comment on her website once, and her first impulse was the same first impulse many of us have if somebody leaves a nasty or snarky comment on our stuff, whether it be video, blog, whatever. You start writing back a response. Like you start, like they're being a bitch, you're gonna be a bitch. They're being an asshole, you're gonna be an asshole. They try to be a jerk or try to clown you, then you're gonna clown them. That's like the knee-jerk reaction that many of us have, especially if you're someone who's good with words. If you're a writer or a person who's on camera all the time, you can probably talk somebody else out of the room. If they wanna talk shit, you can probably beat them. But what Brene said was that was like the dark side. When you first want to react to somebody, what she really needed to do was not react, but just let her emotions, feel her emotions, whatever she was feeling. And she talks about that in her book, so you can go read the book and you can find out about that yourself. But they all talk about this dark side. In Tim Grover's book, he says, you know, get in touch with the dark side is what drives you. It's the thing that moves you to be as great as you can be. Robert Greene says, understanding your dark side, you can learn to channel it and control it in different ways and know when to put it aside and when to use it. And Brene says, being in touch with that dark side, understanding that part of you that wants to react, that doesn't mean you should do it, but you should understand that it's there because that's part of you. And I'm saying all that to say, for me, you know, people ask me, you know, what do you think was like the major key, or what's been the most important thing for your, whatever people want to label as success? I mean, people have different definitions of it, but they say, you know, you played pro basketball, you built a brand, you wrote books, you started a business, you did these things. What do you think has been like the major driving factor behind it? And usually when you ask a person who's been very successful, a person who has won trophies, or a person who's publicly noted as a success or publicly noted as having made a lot of money, because in America, that's how we look at people as success. You make a lot of money, people call you successful, even if nothing else is going right, and we may not know it or not know it. But anyway, when people reach success and it's public, especially when they're famous, and I'm not famous, I'm talking about people who are way, way more known than me, like they can't go to the mall by themselves famous. You ask them, and they often say hard work, right? They say, I showed up earlier, I stayed later, I put in more effort than everybody else. And I've talked about in detail on my podcast how, for the most part, that's bullshit. Like, for me even, on a smaller scale, yes, I work hard. Yes, I show up every day. I mean, my fucking brand is called Work on Your Game. So, of course, I'm about putting in the work and doing it every day and probably working harder than most of the other people who didn't go as far as I went in certain things. But I was still, at the same time, not going to stand here and tell you that the main reason why I became, I guess what you would call successful, is because I worked harder than everybody else. Maybe I did work harder. Maybe my work ethic is, you know, above the average. Maybe the fact that I put in a lot of work has led to some of the things that I've done. I mean, we can trace people's successes to a lot of different factors besides just their hard work. But for me personally, I wouldn't tell you that, the reason that I've done what I've done is because I just outworked people. Maybe I did, that's not the reason. For me, is that dark side, is understanding the light side of the personality and the dark side of the personality. And if you met me in person, and I'm not like playing a sport and I don't play ball no more, but if I'm not in any type of like a specifically competitive thing like a sport and you met me, you're gonna see the light side of my personality. Like people will meet me and they're like, damn, I thought you was different from watching your videos or listening to your podcast. I thought you were more like, I didn't know how nice of a person you would be just because of your persona when you're on camera. But here, you smile more, you're nicer, you're way calmer personality, and people didn't expect it. They see the light side because that's the person that I am. That's one side of my personality, and the light side and the dark side are both sides of us. But most of us, for the most part, we show the light side because the light side makes us look fun and friendly and warm and inviting, and that's cool to have the light side. But the dark side is really what drives, I think, a lot of people. They may not admit it, but it does. Like Michael Jordan, when he got into the Hall of Fame, and he gave that Hall of Fame speech and everyone was talking about it, like, damn, Michael Jordan was talking about people who slighted him, and he talked about his high school coach, and he was talking shit about Jerry Krause, and he just basically rehashed all these things that drove him. He was basically showing his dark side to the whole world, and people are like, I can't believe that he would do that. But the people railing against it the hardest are the same people who have a dark side. They just don't want to put it out there. They don't want to show it to people. But all of us are driven by that in some ways, some more than others again. And for me, it was what drove me and what allowed me to, or aided me in doing the things that I do and have done and will do, is that dark side, the competitive side, the vindictive side, the remembering somebody who thought they was better than me, or somebody who was supposed to be better than me, or something that might happen today where somebody just decides, no, you're not as good as this person right here. And I'm gonna, that subconsciously, it's not even, I don't even have to consciously think about it, because again, when it's part of who you are, you don't have to remind yourself to be it, because you're just gonna be it just by being it. As long as you're not trying to suppress it, it's gonna happen whether you try it or not. And that dark side is really what pushed me all the time, from coming up in my neighborhood playing ball and the coach not picking me. That drove me. And then getting in college and not being on the team my last year, that again, it was something that I had to prove. For my parents not really seeing that basketball was going to be a thing. They didn't try to stop me, but they wasn't going to get involved. They would try to help me. They told me like, yo, that don't really make sense. And it didn't really make sense, but that drove me. That was the dark side saying, you know what, that doesn't make sense, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then just continuing to go and go and go on it, that's being in touch with that dark side. And I'm sharing this so that people understand, for those of you who are, looking into yourself and just trying to figure out what is that thing, like what's the thing that I could really go inside of myself to help really push my own buttons, so I could really have that inspiration or that motivation or that drive or that whatever phrase you want to use is really going to kick you into hyperdrive, so you can really go and be the type of person that you want to be, so you can achieve those things and get those results that you want. It may just be you fully embracing and admitting who you are to yourself. It may just be that. Like, let me just admit that this is the type of person that I am. This is the way that I'm going to conduct myself. This is the kind of energy that I'm going to carry myself with. And, this is what works for me. But you can't do that if you're just looking on YouTube to see what somebody else said, or you're looking around to see, how somebody else feels. You're looking at reading a book and trying to live the way that person in the book said. I just gave you examples from 3 different books, not because I'm trying to be anything the person who wrote the book said, because fuck that, I'm myself. I write my own books, but I'll read somebody else's. I make my own videos, but I might watch yours. I got my own podcast, but I might listen to yours. I'm gonna take the pieces that work for me, that make sense for me, and I'm gonna place them into the puzzle of my life in a way that makes sense for me. But I'm not trying to be what you say is the thing. So I'm making that to let all of you know, like even from my videos and in my videos or podcasts or books or whatever, I tell you this, like you don't need to be me. And I would never tell you like, this is the way that I think, so this is what you need to think. I'm gonna tell you this is how I think and this is how it worked for me, but you need to look at it and ask yourself, how does this make sense for you? So that's how I took those and made them make sense. And the whole point here is for you to understand that there are different sides to your personality. Don't try so hard to put one side out there so everybody can see it and suppress another side, because you'll never get to your full potential unless you embrace all of you and even the dark parts of you. So me here saying that, look, I will hold grudges. I will remember somebody saying something slick. I will remember somebody not believing. I will remember somebody that something needs to be proved to. I remember those things, and those things work for me. Now, some people, again, that's not you. But if it is you, stop acting like it's not you because it's holding you back and keeping you from really getting what you should be getting in life because you're not being exactly who you are. And Tim Grover said this in exact words, you can't get what you really want until you become who you truly are. Embrace who you are, admit it, and just be that person. And that may be the key for you, going wherever it is you're headed to go. But you got to embrace it first. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com. Nobody out there needs more information. What you need these days is a strategy, frameworks, processes, how to actually take all the information that's out there, all the knowledge and content that's out there, make sense of it, and actually produce a result, a tangible result. That's why I created the Game Group. It is my membership site where you will get tangible results for specific areas: business, personal development, basketball skill, and professional basketball. Choose your area of focus, and we have targeted, specified outcomes every single month, along with live trainings, your ability to contact me, have your work critiqued by me, and a whole lot of other stuff. The link and all the information is down in the description at DreAllDay.com/membership. Get in the Game Group if you're ready to get some results and not just a whole bunch of information. Let's do it. Work on your game.